Howdy ho. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Twins Off Daily podcast. I am going to be your host today. Poor Lou was not able to make it. He is arrested. He ended up robbing an orphanage. Whole big thing. Might not be hearing from him anytime soon. But while he's away, the mice will play. I am Gregory Masterson, your host. With me today, I've got Cody Schoenman and Tom Froemming, TF Twins in the flesh. Let's start. Cody, how are we doing today?
Good. I have an interesting fun fact for you guys. So during yesterday's game, Michael Kopech threw an immaculate inning in the first game, and he is the first White Sox pitcher to throw an immaculate inning since Sloppy Thurston in 1923.
Hey, that's
what do you guys
my
think
wife.
about that name?
Wow.
He
was he the second hitter in their order, or?
I don't know.
I already broke the show. I'm sorry. I should go.
We save the off-color comments for the end when most people have stopped listening.
Oh, sorry. I got it backwards. My bad. I'm sorry, Greg.
My joke was, "Hey, buddy, that's my wife." Don't call her that. I told my wife that I tweeted that. And well, at least we have a guest bed. Anyway, Tom, how are we doing, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. At least I am. I won't speak for Cody, but we're doing.
Lou's not doing great, and that's all that matters, really.
Yeah, the justice system is a hard deal. So hoping he comes through. That's what happens when you rob an orphanage. Mm-hmm. Anyway, this is the Twins Off Daily podcast. Our goal is to bring you some Twins discussion, some fun on a Twins off day, as the title suggests. So that's what we're here to do. We're going to recap the last 3 series, and then we're going to play a few games, take a look ahead, and we've got a fun show ahead for you. We're going to do our walk-off question. Our little teaser. It's going to be the last thing we do is we're going to answer the question, which Twins Daily writer would you take in a draft? We're stealing that from our friends or enemies over at Destination the Show. They got the similar question, and we're going to ask it ourselves. So stay tuned for the end to hear our answers to that. But without further ado, let's get into our rapid recap. And so we have been away for 9 games, 9 days. The Twins took 2-for-1 against Detroit, 2-1 against Houston, and 2-1 against the White Sox. They've won 3 in a row over this stretch. That's 3 series in a row over this stretch. That's a nice way to go. If you're winning 2 out of 3 games, you're going to be a 600 team. So that's awesome. What do we got for broad takeaways? We're going to start. Tom, what's caught your eye over the last 9 days of Twins baseball?
I think the first thing that stands out is Jose Miranda and that crazy streak that he had. 12 at bats in a row that he hit? Yep. Just incredible. And when he's locked in, it has to be extremely frustrating to try to pitch to him. There's not like a zone or a pitch type or much you can do especially if he's laying off pitches outside of the zone, which is kind of something that gets him into trouble because he makes so much contact that when he swings, he's usually making contact. So he's got to kind of be more selective. When he's locked in like that, it really feels like there's not a whole lot that you can do with him because he's not a guy that's going to strike out a lot, and he can hurt you too. With some extra base power as well. So Jose Miranda stepping up and just a huge piece of this whole season really is guys who we maybe weren't really expecting that much out of stepping up big time.
Yeah, that's that. Does anybody have the list of players who have also had 12 hits in a row? Did either of you do your homework?
Sloppy Johnston was on that one too.
I know. Well, actually, Lou went kind of viral for, what was it, Pinky Higgins? Was that his name?
Pinky Higgins. Yeah, it was Pinky Higgins, some guy named Droppo.
Yeah, Droppo.
And it's some very like not weird, but very early 19th or 20th century baseball player. It wasn't a Pinky Higgins or a Droppo, but gosh, that's a heck of a name for a baseball player. Like, you do not want to be making errors in the field when your name is Droppo.
Yeah.
Like, you're just asking for trouble there.
Horrible outfielder name.
Yeah, it's been so fun to see Jose Miranda doing what he's doing. It's awesome when somebody who can make contact like Jose does is making good contact. Sometimes you can run into some troubles with that, but no, such a fun stretch to watch. Beyond the 12 at-bats in a row, or 12 at-bats with a hit, he also went 13 plate appearances with a hit, which has only been done a handful of times as well, because he got plunked in the middle of that, in that fun little back and forth that really probably didn't exist, probably wasn't a real back and forth, but a lot of Houston Astros and Minnesota Twins got plunked within that 3-game series. Cody, what about you? What do you got for what's caught your eye over the last three series, 9 games?
Yeah, so Jose Miranda is a part of this, but I want to look at like the whole offense as a collective. So during these 3 series, they hit 300, 365, and 500 as a unit. I mean, that's say an MVP level player right there, and they're hitting like that as a unit. In 4 of these games, they had a team OPS over 1,000 as a collective. That doesn't really happen very often, which is crazy. And then there's also one player that I want to point out alongside Tom bringing up Miranda, and that's Christian Vasquez. In this stretch, he's hit 462, 462, and 1,000 with a 618 WOBA, which is incredible. He's had 6 hits and 14 at bats, so not quite like Miranda level, but still great, in a 312 WRC plus. He's been incredible lately, which is coming at like a very, very clutch time, I guess you could say, because Jeffers continues to struggle at the plate. So it's really nice to have some offensive contribution at catcher. Obviously defense is what's most important, and game planning and framing and stuff like that. But it's really nice to have somebody hit like Vasquez. Obviously, he had the walk-off home run off Josh Hader, which was a lot of fun. There was an interesting piece from Dan Hayes at The Athletic talking about Vasquez and his approach to the plate recently. So he adjusted his swing by making changes to his lower half and his stance, and he's positioning his hands higher. And then he also went to drive line while the team was in Arizona. So that's a very interesting point that Hayes brought up. So, he's making these in-season adjustments. They're working well. They've been working since the beginning of June. So it's nice to see him come around. And, he's just one member of the whole offense that's just hitting incredibly well right now. And they've been the best offense in baseball since, I think, late April. So they're just it's off the charts. I think this is the best Twins offense I might have seen in my whole entire fandom, and definitely the best since the Bomba Squad in 2019.
Yeah, for sure. That's been one of the things. They've got that consecutive home run streak. What is it? 27, 28 now.
I think it got to 28.
28, which is second in baseball history between the 19 Yankees. And it isn't the Bomba Squad. It isn't just this constant barrage of home runs, but it is a very balanced attack that has been really fun to watch, and they're showing power. It's not obviously, if you're going to set the major league home run record, you're doing something right. I'm not going to say that it's necessarily better than the offense that year, but it is fun to watch them kind of have this overall well-rounded attack. So I think one of the things that has kind of stood out to me is we've been seeing some nice performance out of the starting rotation, kind of as a whole. David Festa has struggled in his start. Lopez had a rough first start, but was okay today, was fine. He went 5 innings, 2 runs. The starting rotation was pretty solid over this last stretch, which has been encouraging. Bullpen has not been as great. Has had some rough outings for Cody Funderburk, Steven Okert. Josh Winder wasn't great in his appearance a few days ago, but I've been liking what I've seen out of the starting rotation and the bullpen just as a group overall over these last few games. If we're talking about some specific players, I know we've already called out Jose Miranda and Christian Vazquez. Who else has been hot or not? Start with Tom again for that.
Well, I kind of want to call out David Festa for a moment. I know he got sent down, but then he kind of came back as the extra man. I honestly was pretty surprised that was such a short stay for him in the rotation, and that Paddock is back already. But I thought Festa, there was more there than a lot of people gave him credit for in those two outings. They weren't good outings. They weren't against the better offenses in baseball either. We'll just put it that way. But he's been checking so many boxes that coming into the year, I was not evaluating him as a starting pitcher. I was looking at him and saying, okay, he's a starter now, but this guy, there's no way. It's just not going to happen. And he's doing a lot of things, even though not all the success is falling in. And if you look back at how the runs were scored against him throughout his two outings, there is some kind of fluky stuff. There was a grand slam that he gave up on a pitch that was well above the zone where you just kind of tip your cap to the batter. But throwing a lot of strikes. There's a foundation there to where, I am definitely viewing him more as a realistic starting pitcher than I was, 3 or 4 months ago, whatever.
Yeah. And then
go for it.
Well, and then to build off that. So, there was a lot of fluky stuff in the Arizona start, specifically like the 5 runs. It was getting singled to death, Babbitt to death. I want to ask you, Tom, do you think going from like a ABS system in AAA to Major League Baseball, do you think that may have like affected Festa at all? Or do you think that
if anything, it's going to help? That's the crazy thing that I was not anticipating with that automated strike zone is it really shows how many more calls pitchers get than hitters. If anything, it's more, you're facing much less talent in AAA, but you're facing a much more difficult zone to pitch to in AAA than you are in the major leagues. And so I don't know if I would say that that's caused any trouble for him, but I would say he's tight. He's used to that tight zone. He may not realize, I can get a couple inches out here that I'm not getting in St. Paul. And you'd hope that, your Jeffers or Vasquez or whoever he was throwing to would kind of help him on that. But I think that's just kind of a difficult thing to adjust to that maybe he could grow upon, is taking some more of the plate away. Because the thing about pitch framing and setting up pitches, you're also setting up the umpire. And a lot of times when there's a bad umpired game, the score is terrible. It's actually because the pitcher and the catcher work together so well to sort of trick the umpire into giving them that zone and then identifying that they were there. And that is something that both pitchers and catchers aren't really learning to do in AAA right now. Their other levels don't have the ABS, but that's an interesting call out.
Yeah, I when a pitcher comes up, like, it makes his debut, you can essentially expect literally anything to happen. So I don't want to read too far into his 2 outings. But it is a little, I guess, concerning that all 3 of his pitches got hammered. He didn't have like one standout pitch. His slider was not, that's kind of his calling card. That got beat around. His 4-seamer averaged 95, 96. That got bashed around. He had a WOBA of 0.45 on his fastball. Not great. So it's, you never really know what you're going to get. I'm sure that he has things that he's looking forward to working on. I am still curious if, he might get ramped down and just become a fastball slider guy come October, and he can be your 4th, 5th, 6th guy in the bullpen. I would love to see if that becomes an experiment that they do. But yeah, I would love to, like you said, Tom, if he's kind of making his way as a legitimate starting pitcher, he's showing those signs, give him some runway for sure. Cody, what about you?
Yeah, who's not? I'm going to build off the Festa part with Chris Paddack. So he came back for his first start off the IL. And while like the first 4 innings were impressive, he really kind of dropped off in the 5th and kind of struggled there. I mean, he gave up a home run to Martin Maldonado, which no pitcher ever wants to do. I mean, but it's going to happen sometimes. I guess it'll happen 3-4 times a year. That's unfortunate. But with him, I think the biggest issue is just kind of like lack of pure stuff and like good stuff overall. I mean, in the start, he was pounding 93, 94 mile per hour fastballs in the zone. And, Twins pitchers overall pound the zone is probably a good philosophy. But with Paddack, I feel like sometimes it can just go like, it can reach like a downward spiral very quickly. So like, at times he'll be cruising, he'll be going along, and all of a sudden by like a snap of a finger, he'll just like give up 3 runs. He'll give up 4 runs. And that's kind of what happened in Festa's start too. But I found that to be interesting with Paddack. And also to bring up the idea of, kind of tapering somebody down towards the end of the year, maybe like using their best pitches. I think Paddack might be best utilized as a reliever come playoff time. I know that's like a very like common take right now going around Twin circles is that Paddack will be a reliever come playoff time. But, I think there is some merit there, genuinely. He performed really well as a reliever last year in the playoffs. I mean, he was great in that Houston series. So it would be nice to see him kind of be utilized, max out at 96, 97 with the fastball. There is good stuff there when he's able to throw with maximum effort. I just don't know if he's sustainable as a starter, both short-term and long-term. I think the Twins might be in the market to acquire somebody like maybe Michael Lorenzen or Yusei Kikuchi in the trade deadline. I mean, they're both on 1-year deals. They'll be cheap. Ownership doesn't have to commit to them long-term. So there's not like the long-term TV money, aspect that's not going to hinder anything. So overall, I am concerned about Chris Paddack. I think the Twins they probably should get a 5th starter. I don't think, you can't put your faith in Festa right now. Unfortunately, maybe later in the season, and Zebby is still too young. So it's interesting, but yeah, overall, I think there's a real concern with Paddack.
Yeah, and it would keep his innings down on his first time back from Tommy John, or I guess his second time back from Tommy John. But, as he's doing his first full season since recovering from Tommy John, that's probably a discussion that's going on at One Twins Way. I can definitely see that. And yeah, it'd make all the sense in the world if the Twins do, go get another pitcher who could start game 3 or game 4 to ramp him down, let him kind of do what he did last year. He hasn't been terrible, and he's kind of had the struggles that you might expect for a guy who is recovering from TJ. But you probably don't feel super comfortable with him in his current form running out there and starting a playoff game for you. But he did look really good down the stretch as a reliever in a very, very small sample. So yeah, for sure. I'm gonna shout out, if we're gonna continue the who's not thread. Actually, I do want to shout out that we're seeing Matt Wallner back for his first few games after being called back up, and he has looked terrific. He is scorching the ball. He is taking good at bats. He hasn't struck out a ton yet. That's always going to be part of the picture with him, but it is nice to see him have some success, and that definitely, you're thinking about him being in potentially your playoff lineup. And if he's swinging it like he was last year for most of the year while he was up, that's a great present to have. It's kind of the cliche of, we didn't trade for anybody at the deadline, but we've got these guys coming back from injury, and these guys are going to be coming up from AAA. Don't want to lean too hard into that, but it is nice to get kind of that boost.
Yeah, the Twins deadline acquisitions are going to be Brock Stewart, Justin Topa, and Royce Lewis. Those are going to be the acquisitions.
You guys are writing Foley's press conference, aren't you?
A few years back, I wrote up it was before I was on Twitter. I was on Twins Reddit. And back then they used to put out like full press statements instead of just the picture that says like optioned and called up. It would be a full paragraph with, details on, this guy has thrown 92 innings at AAA, whatever. And so I wrote up a full one of those that was like, and Randy Dobnak's coming back, and he's a former playoff game starter. So we didn't actually need to make any trade deadline acquisitions. And as often happens, some people thought it was hilarious, and some people wanted to commit assault against me for getting on their nerves. What else is new? But on the negative side, we were talking, we kind of threw out the idea that there's like a single chance in hell that Carlos Santana might be an all-star based on the low level of competition at first base right now among the American League. Carlos Santana has been looking really rough over this last week and a half. I pointed it out today. Early in the season, he had a bunch of A swings that looked like they were going to be home runs, and then they went 300 feet, easy kind of pop-ups. He's looking rough, and when you're at the age Carlos Santana is, every time you go through one of these slumps, people start worrying like there is some sort of, it's over for you. I'm not saying that, but eventually there might be a time where Carlos Santana becomes more of a platoon player. He has not hit right-handed pitchers. He has not hit well as a lefty in years. He has been fine, but he's not been good against righties this year. He has demolished lefties. And as Matt Wallner comes back, gets more into the picture, every day right now, you're going to have one of Wallner, Kepler, Larnach, Miranda, Santana, and Lee are probably going to be sitting every day. Maybe you throw Castro in there too. There's not enough room for all of them. And I can definitely see a world where Santana maybe only plays half the time against righties or something along those lines. His defense at first base has still been terrific, but he just has not hit right-handed pitching well this year. And I could definitely see him kind of moving into more of a role than being an everyday guy, as much as the Twins would probably hate to see that because they love running him out there every single day.
Yeah, the only concern is that there's not really much depth behind him. I mean, it's Jose Miranda,
right.
And then who else is viable? You could say Brooks Lee, but Brooks Lee isn't going to play first base, right? I mean,
Edouard Julien.
Yeah, but he's in St. Paul, so
it's first base for the Saints.
Who's at first base?
Julien is playing. They're mixing him in a bit at first base. With the Saints.
It's like once or twice a week. It's not some huge amount.
Right. But you have to demote somebody, and who you're going to demote. There's nobody who's going to be sent down. So yeah.
But I mean, I would not be surprised. Come roster expansion, come an extended playoff bench. It's very possible that Carlos Santana would not be starting at first base against righties in the playoffs once you have that larger bench and everything, whether that is Miranda, Miranda plays the first 7 innings and then Santana comes in to make sure that no Miranda mania happens at first base. Could definitely see that.
I guess Kirilloff too, technically, but that's a whole different story.
I mean, Willie Castro can do anything. So
why not?
Why not?
If you don't want Royce Lewis running around and diving too much, that's not serious. But if we're going to be throwing out Willie Castro, why not?
I bet you there are internal discussions that are along this line of what are we going to do? Yeah, if this is what we're going to get. And I mean, I didn't really get the Santana signing to begin with, but obviously you have to view it through the lens of they had $5 to spend.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that's the spot they're looking at, and they're looking everywhere else. And they're saying, well, we got 2 guys here. We got 3 guys over here. And then you look at first base and it's like, gosh, it would just be the easy button to just send somebody over there. But kind of as we saw with Jose Miranda a couple years ago, yes, first base is kind of the bottom of the defensive spectrum, but that doesn't mean you can put anybody over there and just expect it. A lot of guys do fine, but
tell them wash.
Yeah,
it's extremely hard.
Cool. All right, let's get into our big talking points for today. Today we're gonna go around and we're gonna talk about our first half awards. We're gonna start with some of the easy ones. We're gonna start with team MVP. Who do we feel our team MVP is? I'm gonna start with Cody on this one.
Yeah, so I think the most obvious answer is Carlos Correa, and I think he is the answer. And I think most Twins pundits are writing that. And, as of right now, he is the only all-star on the team. Joe Ryan can maybe be an all-star. Griffin Jax might be an all-star. But I think overall, because I don't want to steal any of your potential answers, I will go with Correa as the surefire MVP right now.
Who do you think you're going to steal, Cody? Well, actually, I'll let Tom. Tom, I mean, if somebody's going to be saying it's Willie Castro, it's probably going to be you, Tom, the biggest Willie Castro fan the world has ever seen.
Willie Castro. I mean, I will agree. If we're going to take a cold-hearted look at this and just say who deserves to be team MVP, I will also agree that Carlos Correa. If you're going to look at it that way. But if you want to kind of color outside the lines and really get creative with that value word, I do think there's a case for Willie Castro. And I mean, he's played great. So it shouldn't be that weird that he's thrown out in this conversation. But I think kind of something that pushes him forward more is the fact that he creates so much security across your entire organization, really. Anything happens to any of your guys slumping, sophomore player doesn't come out like you hope he would, somebody gets injured, you can like in that first base. I mean, I was only half joking when I threw Willie out there, because they can do that with anything else. Well, we got Willie. Oh, all of our second basemen are horrible. Oh, well, we got Willie. We'll just throw him over there. More than 20 games at second base, left field, shortstop, third base, and center field with a offensive production that's been comfortably above average. Is one of the best base runners in the game, in my opinion. He's played every single game for the Twins this year. It's Correa, but man, the value that Willie Castro provides is remarkable to this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's hard. I mean, it's hard to even comprehend what Willie's done unless you are really paying attention to just how, especially because it's such a fit organizationally and philosophically, for Rocco to be making multiple. He's kind of toned it down with the pinch hitting in recent weeks, but basically he's got 9 guys that he's going to start at 8 spots. He can choose whichever 8 of those guys he wants to go, and just figure out where Willie needs to go amongst them. Beyond that, he's kind of done the whole super utility thing where, you think you're going to play him, one day here, one day there, but he's just slid in and been an everyday presence at 3 different positions at least. And then he is starting basically every game in left field against left-handers. And he's been your top center field depth on a team with Byron Buxton. That's hard to explain. And he hasn't he's a 24% better than average hitter. That is better than Santana, Julian. Santana, Julian, Margot, Kepler, Larnach, Jeffers, Farmer, Wallner. Better than Martin, better than Kirilloff. That is a legit bat that you can just kind of plug in wherever. He has not been the same on the bases. So yeah, I think that it kind of does come down to how you see the word value. Carlos Correa has been the most productive. Willie Castro is the key, if that makes sense. I like to say that he enables all of Rocco's shenanigans. He's the perfect player for a Rocco Baldelli team.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting debate there between just high-end talent and utility, or MVP level player and somebody who can just plug many holes. And, overall, if I was team building, I think 10 times out of 10, I would take the MVP style player over the guy who can plug a bunch of holes. That's not to say, Willie like plugs the holes and then plays average or like, performs average offensively. Like he plugs the holes and he still hits like 30% better than league average. So it's just a crazy useful player. But overall, I still think Correa, takes the edge for MVP.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my pick. My pick is Cheap Polad because it is kind of funny to think about the way that the offseason went in a way because they were hard strapped for cash. They basically had to invent all the money they spent this offseason. They sold on Jorge Polanco, which he's not been very good in Seattle this year. It would be nice if DeSclafani and Tope pitched an inning for the Twins this year. But you also have a couple of valuable minor leaguers that you got back from him. With that money, they also signed Carlos Santana. And I know that I just said that he is struggling this year, but he has had a very solid year. He's been very productive. He cost them $5 million. It's possible, for example, that if they had more money, they would have spent that on Rhys Hoskins. That was a name that came up a lot. Rhys Hoskins has been, I wouldn't say considerably worse than Santana, but he has had a worse season than Santana has this year. If they had their way and they had money to spend, they might have spent that on, say, Michael A. Taylor. They might have given him that $8 million, $10 million, whatever that he was asking for. They turned around and they got Manny Margot, which is a less sexy pick. But he has been a really good platoon player. So in a weird way, all of the names that kind of were at least on the top of fans' minds, if the Twins just had money, they could go get this guy. Somehow, some way, the decisions that they made because of the payroll constriction has been almost worked out in the end. It's kind of weird like that. So let's go on to our least valuable player, least valuable person, and I'm going to say Cheap Polad for cutting payroll. On to you guys. Tom, let's go with you first.
This was kind of a tricky one because, as we've discussed a little bit, there's been so many guys that, it's like, this guy hasn't been playing well, but look, he's doing well now. Or, he had that stretch earlier where he was kind of one of the only guys who was playing well. And you can go through guys. This guy was that a little bit in a spot, but I'm going to go with Alex Kirilloff as least valuable. He also factors into this first base. That's actually, I kind of forgot about him at this point, because that probably was why they were like, well, we'll get Carlos Santana and just hope that maybe Kirilloff can work out there. And that just hasn't been a thing. I don't know. It's hard to expect anything from him long term, but just I don't know, he's hurt, so maybe some of the downturn of his performance was due to injury, but whatever the cause, it's just such a bummer, such a sloop that Alex Kirilloff is once again not catching any traction as a major leaguer.
Yeah, and the thing that kind of catches me by surprise is that he did have a 117 OPS plus last year. He was a solid hitter. Like, that's like kind of what you're looking for out of, a minimum salary first baseman. And a lot of this stuff is injury related. And so it's kind of a hard discussion to have, but he's not performed. Outside of last year, he's had 2 or 3 years where he struggled to perform or missed a lot of time due to injury. And I don't know, it's just a really frustrating thing to watch. I'm sure that it's very frustrating for him, but yeah, for sure. Alex Kirilloff. I would place him towards the bottom of this. What about you, Cody?
Yeah, similar train of thought. If you want to look at expectations versus results, I think there's a strong case for Edouard Julien too for this, award, like Raspberry Award, I guess, if that's how you want to.
We'll send it to them in the mail.
Yeah, yeah. But just entering the season, he was kind of written in pen as an everyday second baseman, maybe a platoon with Farmer, but less so than last year. He was going to hit leadoff against righties, maybe some at bats versus lefties. He was going to be this guy who had, good power, good contact, would post like a 120, maybe higher WRC plus. And I think like before he was demoted, his WRC plus was in like the low 70s or something around there. It's really unfortunate. His defense did improve, so there is like a silver lining. He's also struggled in St. Paul, less so than when he was initially demoted. But I would say overall, I think Julian is probably the least valuable player when you want to look at expectations versus results.
Yeah, and that's another one that, it's not over for him, obviously. His second year, this happens all the time. But yeah, compared to what he was expected to do, this has been a really rough stretch for him. And one of those times where it's thank God for Willie Castro, It'll be interesting to see, once Brooks Lee and Royce Lewis are in the same infield, how that kind of shakes out. It's nice to have both of those guys around, and in addition to Willie Castro, so it's not like you're completely up the creek without a paddle. But yeah, that's been rough for him. And I guess we're going by Lavelle rules. So the MVP and LVP were not pitchers. What do we got for our team Cy Young? And we will go back on a snake with Cody starting this one.
Yeah, so I think there's two ways you could look at this, but I'll go with the obvious answer again in Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan has been the team's best starting pitcher throughout the whole entire year. I know Bailey Ober has picked it up of late, but his struggles are kind of too much to kind of like look past them. So
yeah, he's got a 1.2 as ERA as long as he's not facing the Royals. So.
Yeah. But those Royal starts are really bad. They have something. They have something on them. The Royals are cheating. That is true in many ways.
Royals cheating, yes.
But
somebody clip this, please. Put it on Twitter.
Yeah, I think Ryan was deserving of an all-star nod this year. He's been great. He'll often mow through 7 innings. He'll give up like 2-3 runs. He's suppressed home runs, which was an issue for him last year, even when he wasn't injured. So it's really nice to see him come around in there. His velo is hitting 95, 96, something we never would have thought when he first came up. So he's made a lot of great strides. He's definitely become a frontline starter, like a solidified frontline starter, which was a debate we were going to have coming into this year. So, I think Joe Ryan is the Cy Young. He's like a top 20 starting pitcher in baseball, and he's just been really great this year. So I'm really happy with what we've seen from him.
Yeah, Tom, what do you got?
Yeah, I think much like the most valuable player discussion, I think it is just kind of a slam dunk that Joe Ryan is the guy. Kind of unfortunate the way that's worked out, really. We would have hoped for more of a race here, but in the same sense as kind of Willie Castro in a way. I do want to shine some light on Griffin Jax and just how good, not just how good he has been, but how reliable he's been, and how, so much of kind of the bullpen plan, as is almost always the case. You can't make a bullpen plan, really. There's just always so many injuries and so many guys not performing who you're hoping for, or, somebody's got a velo down for a while. Griffin Jax has just been this guy that they can turn to. And, everybody has their ups and downs, but he's been remarkably good. And with these injuries and with, no Stewart, no Topa, guys that they've been really expecting to carry some of his load. They've been riding Jax hard for a couple of years now. And he just keeps showing up and doing his job and pitching well. So I definitely think, Joe Ryan is the guy, but I don't think it takes much longer to get to Griffin Jax, which is crazy, him being a reliever.
Mm-hmm.
What is this, like the 1980s where we're giving Cy Young awards? Not even a closer, man. Yeah, and I think that is kind of the obvious slam dunk answer is Joe Ryan. He has been everything and more than we would have expected. Just a reliable, consistent, very good pitcher. Griffin Jax has saved the bullpen in a way. I mean, Yohan Duran has been fine. It's not like he's been bad. I think if you asked a lot of Twins fans what like his ERA was, they would not guess that it's 3.14 right now. But having Jax there has been huge. So cool. What about our Cy Yuck award? I'll start. I think that kind of the obvious answer right now is Pablo Lopez. Underlying stats be damned. He has not been producing well. He's got an ERA in the 5s right now. And I don't like saying like, oh, he's making $20 million a year. He's being looked at as your staff ace, if not a legitimate ace in Major League Baseball. And it's just looked really rough for him. I really don't, we all kind of know the story on Pablo Lopez right now, how his 2024 has gone. The underlying numbers do suggest that he can turn it around, but it has been really, really not fun to watch. A guy who legitimately could be an ace, like a top 8 pitcher in baseball, just really flounder all year long. Tom, what do you got?
Yeah, that's who I had as well, Pablo. You kind of referenced it. There is a lot to like about thinking about him going forward. His Savant page looks amazing. He's striking out tons of guys. But we're enough into the season where you can't just shrug off an ERA over 5 at this point. My sort of honorable mention on this one was going to be Louis Varland, because it's not just that, we came into the year with kind of being excited about what he might do as a starter, and that went so poorly it didn't last very long. He's also been terrible with the Saints as well. So he's just kind of completely pitched his way off of the map almost on the Twins. So yeah, it's Pablo for me, but Varland is another Cy Yuck candidate for sure.
Yeah. What do you got, Cody?
Yeah, Pablo is the answer. I mean, his sweeper is just not what it used to be. That pitch overall in MLB has lost its novelty, which is kind of, the pendulum swing with stuff, the sweeper's out now, or what's the pitch called? Splitters, cutters, and sinkers are, kind of a big thing right now. So either way, it is Lopez. Honorable mentions, I would say Chris Paddock, who I critiqued earlier. He's struggled, but overall he's been fine. And then Caleb Thielbar, too, out of the pen. He's been good for his last couple outings, but, there was a time early in the season where, there was legit, steam behind the notion of maybe DFAing him or getting rid of him. But unfortunately, the Twins just really don't have left-handed reliever depth at the moment. But Thielbar and Paddock are also names that I would throw out there.
Yeah, Thielbar, I believe he's at least once gone a full week without pitching, and including in games where they were looking for somebody to throw garbage innings. They were still like, no, I'm sure that they were working on things behind the scene, and you can't option a guy like that. So, yeah, that's also been a really rough stretch for Thielbar. Again, sort of like the Santana discussion, anytime that you have a bad stretch when you're of an ancient decrepit age of your mid to late 30s, nothing will ever work again.
Hey, you young bucks got to be careful of that kind of stuff when you got me on here. Oh, come on.
Excuse me. I am a spry 93, Tom.
Apologies.
Greg saw Walter Johnson pitch.
That's right.
He was a good kid. I tell you what. Okay, last one. What do we have for an unsung hero of the season? You can kind of take that however you want. I'm going to throw out Simeon Woods Richardson. I don't know if he technically qualifies as unsung, but I don't think that we probably talk enough about the fact that he's put together 15 very solid starts. He's got an ERA in the mid 3s. He was you say that Paddock has not looked good. Paddock was a runner for Cy Yuck. Varland was in contention for Cy Yuck. Once you get past, granted, like Pablo Lopez hasn't been great, but you look outside of Ryan Lopez and Ober right now, and it's a lot of question marks. And SWR, Simeon Woods Richardson, has stepped up. He has not been talked about in a few years as like a top pitching prospect or anything like that. Who knows if this is like the best 15 starts he'll ever throw, but he has definitely done his job, everything that the Twins could have asked for this year. What do we got, Tom, for our unsung hero?
I was right on that same level with you. Simeon Woods Richardson was my pick as well. And speaking of being old, I'm going to reference an old man stat. that's going to make some people cringe, but I still look at this sometimes with starting pitchers. The team's record in his starts is 11-4. The Twins are 11-4 in games that Simeon Woods Richardson had started. Now, obviously, he's not pitching deep into a lot of games. Some of these, it's a team thing. So some of these games he pitched poorly and they came back. But I think that just really solidifies, if you're kind of talking about unsung hero or a guy whose numbers might not shine super bright compared to in a Cy Young or an MVP conversation. And then, you combine that fact with, we were all very excited about Louis Varland, and that went to so poorly so quickly, they kind of just scrambled to the next guy up, and he's just locked it down for them. I think doesn't get enough credit. Cole Sands was another guy I wanted to throw out. Another guy who was just sort of completely forgotten about, essentially, kind of thrown on the pile of sort of guys not to go back to. He has a 6.71 strikeout to walk ratio, does Cole Sands. It's kind of been up and down. It's been a little inconsistent for him. And then kind of unsung hero, do some future forecasting, and then also just feeling a little itchy that we're 45 minutes into the show without showering praise upon Brooks Lee. Yeah. Pretty easy to envision Brooks Lee sort of
guy
winning out at this in the end, possibly. Depending on how things go with Royce Lewis, depending on how the second half goes, depending on how they solve the infield. So obviously, whatever, how many games in, we can't really give him that title quite yet, but Brooks Lee has a chance to be the unsung hero by the end of the year for sure.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I want to point out Cole Sands is actually leading the bullpen in innings. That might be a sneaky thing, and it's not like some big telling statistic, but it does suggest that he's been a big part of that bullpen. He's at least coming into today. He was tied with Griffin Jacks. He threw 2 innings in the first game today, so he's up 41.1 innings on the year. So I think that's definitely a candidate for unsung hero. Cody, do you have anything else to add to this?
I thought Tom was about to give credit to pitcher wins, and I was going to have a panic attack.
Louis Varland is leading the league in no decisions with 11.
I want to give credit to Trevor Larnach. He was great stepping in for Matt Wallner. We needed a left-handed outfield bat, and he stepped in for the most part. And also Josh Staumont, too. He's been pretty good. I know his underlying numbers suggest that there's going to be some significant regression coming pretty soon. I think he has like a 4.87 xFIP, which is pretty bad. But regardless, he has a 0 ERA in 19 2/3 innings pitched. With Brock Stewart out, Topa out, a lot of guys struggling. He stepped in really well. And also Jorge Alcala, too. He's been a big-time arm in the bullpen. So there's a lot of people, but I think SWR is the winner with Larnach and Staumont close behind him.
Yeah, for sure. Those guys have also been awesome, not standout numbers or anything like that, but they have been vital parts of the team. I do want to Lou sent me a note that we're going to add a quick segment called Nostradamus. Tom Froemming, do you have any bold predictions for the rest of the year?
I haven't been as good at these. My preseason one that I was really pounding my chest about was that the Royals were going to lose 95 games. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. They're slowing down some, but not to the degree that I was just so annoyed by how much love people were giving that team preseason. I think, sometimes I let that, my third eye goes blind, and I let that view the hate on the internet and soak
Your
up.
Your third eye
that.
Sees green. Yeah.
Yeah. This might be
red.
one of them too
right.
here. And I'm interested to see your reactions to this one, because I don't think you're going to like it. I have a few. First one, Cleveland wins the AL Central, but the Twins advance farther than they do in the postseason.
Why
not?
Yeah, I love that.
A lot of people, at least who I follow on Twitter, are so wrapped up in this division race. And in 2024, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No.
Do you know how many division winners won series last year in the postseason? 2
division winners.
The Twins won a series,
Yeah.
and then the Astros beat the Twins.
Yeah.
Those were the only 2 division winners that won a postseason series. All these other mega teams, the Braves, the Dodgers, all these great teams. Baltimore, that won the most games in baseball, I'm pretty sure, last year. None of those teams won a postseason series. So I do think Cleveland, and this isn't like an analytical take, I do think you just need to take your brain out of your head when you're looking at this Cleveland Guardians team this year. They are just, whatever magic is going on. Things are falling their way. They obviously have some good mojo too. They're getting themselves in position to win a lot of these games. To me, it reminds me a lot of the 2019 Twins. You have a new manager all of a sudden. You have a new vibe. There's just some magical sprinkle dust that's on that team, and I think it's going to be close. But I would predict that Cleveland's going to win the division. But then put your brain back in your head and kind of look at that team from a standpoint of the postseason. They have a lot of things going on good in that regard, but I could easily see, things not going their way. Any team, you could say that about any team, but that's a team. I just it feels to me like they might be better set up for the regular season. We'll see, but that would be my prediction more inside the division. What do you guys think about that?
Well, to your earlier point, too, I mean, Arizona and Texas were both wildcard teams, too, and they made the World Series. But, yeah, Cleveland kind of gives me the same vibe as Milwaukee kind of last year. I mean, Milwaukee didn't have this type of hot streak, but they got to the playoffs and they floundered out pretty quickly because of their but there was a lot of reasons, but, pitching became, a big issue. I know, Cleveland doesn't really have a bona fide ace really in their rotation. I mean, I know Bieber's out. They've had a lot of starting pitching struggles. So while you can get through the regular season with that, and you can get a lot of wins, come playoff time, you need pitching. Kind of same way as Baltimore last year too. I mean, Baltimore came on the scene. They were really hot. And then they got to the playoffs, and the Rangers and Corey Seager and Marcus Semien just blew them out of the water. So once again, pitching, right? Pitching is all that matters. And while the Twins starting rotation is kind of iffy right now, I think overall I would take the Twins offense and pitching staff over Cleveland's. And I think that will, come to show long-term. So, I like it. It'll be tough in the playoffs. I don't know who the Twins will face. If they have a 2 seed, would it be the Yankees right now? Right.
I think right now it would be. Yep.
So that's always tough, but the Yankees have been pretty awful lately. So maybe it'll be somebody else by that point, maybe Boston or Seattle, but we'll see. But yeah, no, I like that prediction.
And we're kind of getting into a math problem right now where what was today, game 93. So there are 69 games left in the season. And the Twins are back 5 games. They've been playing their best baseball of the year right now. I would not be surprised if this is their best string of baseball, and they have not made up much ground on the Guardians. And so you've got less than 70 games, fewer than 70 games to make up 5 games in the standings. That's a tough one to work through. Definitely possible. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised. Basically, either way, I would be perfectly. It's within the realm of Gold Gregg's possibilities to have either of those teams. If the Royals were to win the division, I don't know. My brain would fall out. My head would start on fire. I would be shocked. But either of those 2 teams. But I do think that Minnesota is more prepped for the playoffs. So I'm not saying it's crazy. I'm saying it's quite smart. Do you have any others?
I think I will include myself in this. I think collectively, the whole entire baseball community is having a really hard time digesting the fact that there are legitimately 2 really good teams in the AL Central. And I think when a lot of people are losing that context and then just thinking, the Twins are 5 games back in that crappy AL Central. They're not having that great of a year. But yeah, they have actually had the best record in the American League since late April or whatever. John Morosi, I think, shared that the other day. So yeah, I mean, these are, yes, Cleveland has a nice cushion, but these are 2 really good teams. I don't think a lot of people are gathering that. My second prediction is also kind of a haterade prediction. I'm just in a hating mood. I'm just in a mood to get people riled up.
Yeah, come on our podcast and then say
this is what I save it for. I can't put this on my channel. I can't put this stuff out on my Twitter or on my own channel.
Exactly.
Just hate I would get out.
Sully our names on this. Actually, Lou is the one who said it. We'll correct that in post. We'll change your name to Lou, and we'll pin all of that on him.
We have no pride. Yeah.
So we've made reference to some of the Twins' depth a lot, and it's almost to the point where if guys get healthy, it almost is going to create a problem. Now that's a big if. There's usually, they play every day, so there's a lot of opportunity for injuries. But my prediction is the first trade that the Twins make leading up to the trade deadline will appear as a sell trade, and everyone will lose their minds. I don't know if it's like trading Max Kepler for what appears to be, just getting rid of him because he's on an expiring contract or something like that. But they will make a sell-looking trade and then turn around and acquire like a starting pitcher like a week later after everybody's, torches have burned out. This kind of goes into how they operated this offseason, how tight Derek Falvey's trying to operate right now, because he clearly is trying to build a team that has sustainability. So they are, like the Polanco trade was kind of a great example of that. So they're trying to, but they're also trying to compete at the same time. So I feel like there is going to be a trade in this trade deadline season that makes a lot of people raise their eyebrows and wonder, well, wait, aren't the Twins like having a good year? Aren't they in it to win it? What's going on here?
Gosh. Oh man. I had not thought. So in the Twins Daily Slack a few weeks ago, I said that I would do a face reveal if Max Kepler was traded at the deadline. I believe
it might not be
also,
him. It might be someone else.
I also promised that I would try to befriend TC Bear. I made a lot of promises that I'm not prepared to keep because it never crossed my mind that it would. But I think depending on what Larnach and Wallner look like, how healthy everybody is, and when I say this, I'm not saying I think it would happen, but. And I got in trouble yesterday for saying I see a future possibility where Royce Lewis might be a left fielder, and I got some people upset, saying, "Oh, you really think he's?" No, I think there's a possibility that in a move to bring on a legitimate contract, if there is a starting pitcher out there that they want, but they don't have the money for, I could see a chance in hell that Max Kepler is moved to free up salary space, depending on what Larnach and Wallner look like. I don't think it's likely at all. And I would be surprised because if you look at all of the other positions around the diamond, you've got a lot of guys with a lot of team control there. And it does not strike me as the Twins' MO to trade somebody who has 4 years of cost-controlled service, for example, 4, 5, 6 years. Especially for a short-term. I don't think it's crazy. I could definitely see a future that happens.
You can see multiple avenues that get Willie Castro in left field pretty much full time too, which that changes the conversation quite a bit, because now if Brooks Lee is really going to gain traction. Edouard Julien, I think Edouard Julien's going to be back eventually. He's not really lighting things up in St. Paul. I think he's homering back-to-back games. Mm-hmm. Royce Lewis is going to be back eventually. So Jose Miranda, you got to be getting in there. It could become almost a problem that needs to be solved. And if Falvey's getting a bunch of calls on these guys, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets a single A player, we need more guys in the chute. And then maybe getting that single A guy says, all right, we got this guy now in the pipeline. We probably could trade prospect XYZ over here who we think are overvalued outside of our org. We don't believe in them as much as other guys. Right. So it's kind of they kind of would blend together as one idea, the sell trade and then the buy trade.
Go ahead.
I was
going to say it's the term in the Viking sphere is competitive rebuild. That's the term that their GM Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah uses a lot. It's like you're rebuilding, but you're also trying to stay competitive in different time horizons. That's just kind of interesting. I'm also fixated on the idea of the Twins dumping Kyle Farmer at the deadline too. There's no like spot for him anymore. Like everything that he could be, the backup third baseman, the backup second baseman, somebody to platoon even against lefties. I mean, he's still like, he doesn't really, I mean, he gets into those lineups, but like he's batting 8th or 9th. Like there is no spot, I feel, for Farmer on this team anymore. And I could see them dumping him to maybe a more infield needy team for, like Tom mentioned earlier, like a single A pitcher. Remember when the Twins traded Gio Urshela for Alejandro Hidalgo, like a single A starter or something like that? Perfect. I think Farmer's time on the Twins is coming to an end.
I would just love it too, because people would just freak out. It would be so amazing. Oh, I traded an MLB guy for an A-baller. What's going on? I want that one to happen more than I believe it's going to happen. But I have two more real quick.
Perfect.
They're involving the trade deadline as well. One of them is that Greggory is going to acquire a 4th G over the trade deadline.
Oh dear. Oh no.
And then speaking of depth,
I don't have enough G's to go around. If anybody would like to send me money, please buy the Gregg Media Guide, because I do not have enough G's.
And then, we've been talking about depth. We've been talking about kind of some of the pieces being similar. I think Twins Daily is finally going to wise up and realize they have way too many Codys. I think you're getting traded to do a new blog, Cody. I'm sorry.
I agree. No, I totally agree.
I mean, I don't know. The other Codys have been around longer. I'm sure that they're,
he does have more team control. That's a fair point. Yeah,
a little more costly in arbitration.
Yeah, I am definitely reaching free agency soon. You're right. Yeah.
This is a good point. I am pre-arb, but at the same time, you got to look at how I produced. And there's just a whole debate there going on. And, I am the third Cody. I am the third Cody. So, yeah, that's tough. Tom, you really bruised my ego there. I'm going to have to,
I just want to make sure you guys are prepared. The trade deadline is tough for everybody. It's uncertainty. You got to just be ready for it.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, it's much better for me to get another G than for Cody to get traded to a Rockies blog. But I do want to just really quick on that Kyle Farmer front. I also could just see Kyle Farmer being traded kind of in again, sort of like the Max Kepler, just trading salaries. If you're going to trade us, your pitcher who's making $10 million this year, please take our Kyle Farmer. So that we can balance it out and be okay with ownership.
And then just real quick, speaking of contract status, not that many people know this, but I actually have a no trade clause in my Twins Daily contract. So
wow,
I'm safe.
Jeez.
You don't have to worry about me, but you guys have just
got that 10-5.
That's right.
No, I just want to say I will be emailing John and CCing Matt Trueblood after we get done with this, just to make sure that I stay at Twins Daily.
I mean, if you want to change your writing name to your middle name, I mean, this might be a good time to consider that. I'm just
my middle name is Mark, so I
don't think there's any Marks.
No, there is not.
There's Matthews
or CM,
but no Marks.
CM? Yeah, it could be CM Punk, I guess.
Perfect. We figured it out. You get to stick around. Congratulations.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, those were some great Nostradamuses that we were able to take from you. I think that some of them are crazy and some of them are realistic.
That's what it's all about.
And I'll let the listeners decide which those are. I've been pinged by producer Lenny that in my efforts to run this show, I skipped over minor leaguers that have caught our eyes. So if we want to really quickly circle back on that topic, I will go first. I am obsessed, some people might say, with big dudes who ding dongs, and I continue to forget this guy's first name. Eduardo Beltre is a 17-year-old down in the DSL. He is 17. He's in the DSL. He's only played because it's the DSL. The Dominican Summer League. Is that what that stands for? Dominican Summer League. It's one form of rookie ball. So he has right now played 15 games. He has an OPS of 1.122. He's a massive dude. He's hit 4 home runs in his first 15 games. And of course, this is the Dominican Rookie League. And I'm doubling up on Cody's shout out to him last week. But I just want to point out that this man bat flipped a walk-off single this week. Which is just an absurd thing to do. I am not a huge fan of bat flips and whatnot. Call me old-fashioned, if you will. But I've gotta love the gumption on a man to bat flip a walk-off single. That's amazing. So that's my minor leaguer who caught my eye this week. Tom, what have you got for us?
Yeah, Beltre, man. And he'll he bat flips, he bat spikes home runs, he stomps on the plate and gestures at the catcher. It's like this guy. I love it. Yeah, he's caught eyes, that's for sure. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with a super under the radar name, but it's very easy to see why this is Spencer Bengard. He has a 1.32 ERA and a 0.965 whip with 9.8 Ks per 9 on the year for Fort Myers. A guy who's just not on the radar because he's a 15th round pick. That's about all there is to it. And speaking about big boys, he's listed at 6'4", 220. So this is a big starter's frame, and much like maybe Zebby Matthews, there is some some cardio that's got to be done. Maybe he's got to get fitter. Maybe that's why he was a 15th round pick. Maybe a lot of teams looked at him and didn't think he had the athleticism. He has a physicality, but maybe they question the athleticism. The Twins also have been very good at adding velo, which, as time goes on, it's kind of like, well, everybody's good at adding velo these days. But Spencer Bengard is already throwing in his most recent start. He topped out at 93.5, which that's obviously not anything too crazy these days, but he's in his first full season. Throws 6 pitches, primarily throws his slider a lot of his outings. So he's a guy who's, able to go deep into his arsenal. But again, it's just this guy is pitching incredibly well. Spencer Bengard, again, 15th round pick out of Cal Baptist. I think he was a college teammate of CJ Culpepper, was another one of the Twins prospects.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. Another one of those weird little guys that the Twins love to collect and hope that he turns into something. Honestly, at times those guys all kind of flow into one archetype in my head, and they're just a different version of David Festa, essentially, or just like Zebby Matthews 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.0 type of thing. Love when those guys come up. Cody, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so there's another minor league pitcher who deserves his flowers, and that's Andrew Morris. So he was the Twins minor league pitcher of the month for June at AA Wichita. In that month, he had a 1.91 FIP, 27% strikeout rate, 5% walk rate, a 1.01 ERA, and a .079 whip. So just incredible across the board, would be an automatic Cy Young if you could sustain that, but obviously nobody can sustain that. But that's very impressive. He could get promoted to AAA maybe later this year alongside Zebby. It'd be really nice to see those two make the jump later on. I don't know if that's actually feasible, but, he was really great. Just another guy in what I think is genuinely becoming a pitching pipeline. That's a buzzword, I know, but the Twins, man, they're really just turning in arms lately. There's the well-known, there's Festa, Marco Raya, but there's guys like Morris, guys like Zebby, CJ Culpepper, even Pearson Ole last year, not as good this year, but just a lot of people coming through, and Morris has really been impressive, and I'm really excited to see what he can be going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Andrew Morris. This is a guy, for the last year, I've been trying to get some steam on him. Everybody talked about Corey Lewis and CJ Culpepper last year. This year, it's all about Zebby Matthews. Andrew Morris is pitching every bit as good as Zebby Matthews is this year. They both started in Cedar Rapids. They both moved out to Wichita. Their numbers are both outstanding. Morris, though, just doesn't get as much love. He's also 2 years younger than Zebby Matthews. He has a really unique release point. He's super over the top. His fastball, just I think it's that delivery. People don't seem to pick up on it well. And then both of his breaking pitches are weird coming out of that high slot. He's just he's a different look for guys. And yeah, his numbers, if you look at him and Zebby Matthews, pretty similar. And Zebby's getting so much love. And I love that. And he's shooting up prospect lists. But Andrew Morris is not. And I don't get it. Maybe there's some stuff that I don't have the eyes for, but he's a top 10 prospect in the system to me. Andrew Morris is. And I hope, if he keeps pitching well, I hope he starts to kind of get his due.
Yeah, another guy I wanted to shout out to was Tanner Hall. He's had a pretty good start too. So wait, where do you have Morris on your list specifically, Tom? What number?
Ninth.
Okay. And so I want to transition really quick. So I know at the beginning of the year you had Charlie Soto as a Twins top prospect, and I think Zebby and Festa have usurped him as, above. I think you have Festa 5, Zebby 6, and Soto 7. So would you mind just kind of explaining Soto's start to the year, maybe where he struggled a little bit and why you think maybe he's dropped on your list?
They're super close, and it's really more that Festa and Matthews have checked more boxes. It's more that they've climbed above Soto to me than Soto's necessarily dropped. Always expected Charlie Soto to struggle this year as an 18-year-old who primarily played shortstop in high school, pitching in the Florida State League. There's not that many teenagers that are pitching in the Florida State League, period. They're going to try to get him through an entire season. You think about that compared to how they're treating Marco Raya, who's 21 years old, pitching in Double-A. It's pretty remarkable they're letting Charlie Soto throw this many innings. And I know he's not going 6 innings and throwing 100 pitches very often. But I'm still very, very high on Charlie Soto and intrigued. We are starting to kind of see some of the things that I don't have great eyes for maybe come to play, like his four-seam fastball shape. He throws mostly sinkers, but it seems like if he could throw a four-seamer that gave other hitters trouble, that would be a really X factor. His slider is good. His changeup is not as good as I was hoping it to be. And that's led, I think, to a lot of struggle against left-handed hitting. Okay. I still really am excited about Charlie Soto. But yeah, David Festa, I kind of talked about it. He really has convinced me that there is starting pitcher potential there when I had him really low entering the year. Because again, I was like with Marco Raya, kind of treating him more like a relief pitcher. And then Zebby Matthews, that kind of goes without saying why he's climbed up the list there. But a lot of the times, even though you have somebody, I think I had Soto at 4 and now he's at 7. That looks like a fall, but it's just Luke Keeschall and David Festa and Zebby Matthews have kind of more climbed up than him necessarily sliding back. That's how I would think of it.
Cool. I've got to say, I love this is my first time I've interacted with you, Tom, and I love hearing you say words like Zebby Matthews and Andrew Morris, because it's I've been watching your YouTube videos
me too.
for years. You are the gateway into the minor leagues for a lot of Twins fans. It's funny hearing you actually say it in person.
I was going to say, I've been watching Tom since I was in high school, since I was 17. So
now you're really trying to make me feel old.
I had kind of the same moment the first time I met John, and he was in a conversation and talking about how Aaron was acting up before a podcast, and he just cut him off by saying, "And welcome," and just starting the podcast. I was like, wow, I just heard that in real life.
It's crazy.
So I just wanted to point that out. That's been fun. Okay, I think we've spent enough time in the rapid recap and big inning. Let's move on to picks to click. So picks to click is brought to you by Boof Bonzer. Oof Bonzer laying pipe in Connecticut since 2017. Seriously, that's actually what he's up to right now. He is a pipe fitter in Connecticut. He has a LinkedIn page and everything, and it is awesome. All right, so our Picks to Click is a segment that we like to do where we try and reach within ourselves to make a prediction. Last week, we predicted who on the Twins would have the highest slugging percentage. Lou came in with Miranda. Miranda had a 758 slugging percentage. Very great numbers. 12 consecutive hits will do that for a man. However, Byron Buxton, Greg's pick, that's me, had a slugging percentage of 778. Beat out Miranda by 0.03. Cody, always the educated guesser.
Did I win this week?
No, you didn't win. And I'm looking at it. You've never won. You've literally never won. No. There are 3 guests who have more wins than you, Cody. And
have I came close?
This is the week.
No. You've never won. You've never come close, and you will never amount to anything. Brock, though,
you told me this. What?
I'm sorry it took this long for somebody to finally tell you. Oh. But you did beat Brock. Brock chose Trevor Larnach, who had a 238 slugging percentage over the last 9 games. That brings the all-time standings to Sweet Lou Hennessy and Old Greg Masterson tied at the top at 5. Peter Labuza, Sherry, Kearney, and Matt Braun each have 1. Nick Nelson, Cody Schoenman, Theo Tollefson, and Melissa Berman all have 0. So this week, we've only got 3 games before our next off day. We've got a 3-game road trip. No spoilers, I guess, but there's going to be a 3-game road trip ahead against the San Francisco Giants. And the stat that we are going to choose is the most home runs allowed. Now, mind you, Cody, please remind me who the 3 starting pitchers are.
Yeah, it's Joe Ryan, SWR, and Chris Paddock.
So those are probably, unless you foresee Cole Sands pitching 5 innings over the next 3 days and giving up 4 home runs in the process, we're probably going to be wanting to focus on starting pitchers, but that's not necessarily a requirement. So Cody, since it says here you've not won, interesting. I'm going to give you the first pick. Who do you think in this next 3-game series is going to give up the most home runs?
That's crazy. I've never won. Okay. I'm going to go with Simeon Woods Richardson. I think of the 3, Ryan is somewhat home run prone. Like I said, Paddock hasn't performed necessarily well this season, but I think Woods Richardson might get hit a little bit. Maybe Soler Wisely might take him deep. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to go with Woods Richardson.
So Cody has Simeon Woods Richardson. Mm-hmm. Tom, what do we got?
I'll take Paddock here, even though Ryan gives up his home runs. I do like the hater vibe of the choice of that we're picking who's going to fail. I don't know, I'm just in a hater mood today.
Yeah.
I am gosh, thank you guys for giving me this one. I feel like if you bet $100 on Joe Ryan to give up a home run every week for his entire career, you would have like maybe 10% more than you started with, because they probably aren't going to give you very good odds on that. You can say a lot of good things about Joe Ryan. His ability to limit home runs is not the best. So I'm going to go with Joe Ryan in this context, or in this contest. There we go. Thank you. So Cody chose Simeon Woods Richardson. Tom chose Chris Paddock. Old Greg chose Joe Ryan. This is a chance for me to get a win and inch out ahead of Lou in the all-time standings. This is a chance for Cody to get on the board, and this is a chance for Tom to get ahead of Cody in his first appearance. So a lot riding on this one.
I will say really quick, Joe Ryan will not give up a home run in the Bay Area. That is his home area. He's got to represent. So he's going to show out. So it's going to be up to me or Tom, I think. I think I might get it this week. I might get it. I don't know. Probably not, but we'll see.
I believe.
Joe's going to put a ball in the bay, let's be honest.
Yeah.
All right. After that, we're going to get into Greggory's gripes. Greggory's Gripes is a segment where I gripe. I can always be counted on to have something grinding my gears. This is my therapy session. Get it all off my chest. And I'm going to be quick with this one because I think the longer I explain it, the more insane or uncouth that I might sound. I hate sunglasses. I get upset when I see ball players wearing sunglasses. For those who aren't watching, Cody is actually falling off of the screen laughing, which really boosts my confidence. Thank you, Cody.
I didn't expect that sentence,
It bothers the whatever expletive you want to insert into this sentence. It bothers the blank out of me to see people in sunglasses, and I know that it's unwell of me to be like this. I have a problem, but like, you are too good to look at the sun. Like, there's a part of me that kind of hates ball caps. Like, oh, you need a visor? Like, what? Like, you guys know that the first guy who showed up anywhere in a cap with a brim, like, he was despised. He was that jerk who was too good to look at the sun. And I'm kind of the same way about sunglasses. I mean, like, it helps you. Okay, so why don't you just have better eyesight? Like, why do you need this tool? Like, if you were really that good of a ball player, you wouldn't need these extra. Like, I know it's unreasonable. I know. But it just ticks me off. When I was a baseball player, I refused to wear sunglasses. I never lost a single ball in the sun. If we're being honest, if this really is my therapy session, I think part of the reason that I don't like sunglasses is because I have a weirdly shaped head, and I've never been able to look good in sunglasses. They always look goofy on me. The first time that I ever put them on, people pointed and laughed. So maybe it's just me not liking other people wearing sunglasses, but there is an arrogance to wearing sunglasses, if I do say so myself.
No, I agree with you 100%. Actually, I'm on the exact same page. I mean,
Really?
Yeah, I think looking into the sun, I think, saying that can hurt your eyes is a total lies too. I actually enjoy looking into the sun. Like, I make an effort to do
I think you're picking on me.
Like, when I drive, I tend to look into the sun instead of the road. It just kind of like feels better, So just like, I agree with Greg. I think there's merit to not wearing sunglasses, definitely.
Well, we know when Cody's not on next week, it's because he ran over a bunch of people.
I mean, that gets me onto another thing. I don't like the flap in the car that you put down. What's that called? The visor? Or I don't like when people put that down. I've never in my life put it down. It annoys me. Like, why don't you just drive better?
I can't stand footwear. These modern ball players. Shoeless Joe Jackson, okay, Hall of Famer. He didn't need footwear. What's that about? Except
that Big Shoe conspired to kick him out of the league. Like, this has been a conspiracy from the top. Big Shoe has had it out for Shoeless Joe Jackson, Billy Maharg, and I can't think of the gambler's name, but it was all the CIA.
People need to know. It was Nike.
I don't think Nike existed. No. It's from the top. It's the CIA. First they came for Joe Jackson, then they came for JFK.
I hate facial hair. Which I'm gonna throw a question out there for you guys, and I want your answer. Which MLB franchise has the most World Series championships?
That's right. I love the Yankees rule. This is not like none of this is a bit, man. I love the Yankees rule.
Dumb when they
honestly, if you're gonna have facial hair, just wear a damn mustache. Like gentlemen do.
That's not going to save Alex Verdugo.
Yeah. And Strowman has a nice mustache. I mean, like, you know, if you're going to have facial hair, you know, there's a reason why you're not winning championships. And it's because you have hair on your face.
Yeah, you know what? You know, that's great. Okay, so I am out on facial hair. I am out on sunglasses. I am out on hats, and I am out on the little flaps that you push down when you're driving. All right. Well, that was Greggory's gripes. If you have a gripe that you'd like to air out, hit us up on Twitter. Twins Off Daily.
Speaking of facial hair,
Masterson. Oh, hello, Kitty. Oh, everybody who's listening on Apple or Spotify needs to go and check out the YouTube video. We have, what's the cat's name?
Guest appearance, Rosie.
Rosie.
Not named after Eddie Rosario, named after my daughter's nurse at school, which we didn't know until after the fact.
Well, that's a lighthearted way to end Greg's gripes. So let's get into the closer. So the closer is brought to you by talcum powder. It's hot in the Midwest, and sometimes those places on your body need to dry out. Folks, I'm talking here about chafing, or as my father used to say, jock rash. If you're like Joe Ryan last Monday, you might need to be interested. That was an incredible clip. If you guys didn't see it, the listeners, I know my wise co-hosts here saw it, but gosh, what a moment to be caught on camera.
I don't think I've ever been more chill in my life than Joe Ryan was doing that, by the way. Just so cash, just having a conversation, you know.
That's awesome. Oh, that's not the button I meant to. There we go. Quick zoom in for everybody. So the closer this week is going to be an Immaculate Gregg. This is your first time playing Immaculate Gregg along with us. I'll quickly describe how we're going to do it. We've all played Immaculate Grid, hopefully at some point. We do a version here called Immaculate Gregg. Immaculate Gregg, we've got a 2x2 table here if you're watching online. If not, there's 2 columns and 2 rows. Each column or row has a category, and we're trying to choose a twin who fits into those categories. So across the top, we've got a San Francisco Giant because the Twins are going to San Francisco this week. And then the second category is Proven Closer. Along the side, we have a target. The rule for Proven Closer has to at least have 1 save as a Minnesota Twin. On the left side, we've got the category Target Field Darling, so just any Twin who played at Target Field. And at the bottom, we have Nice Trade Falvey as a category. This is a player who was traded to or from the Twins. So the 4 categories are top left, Target Field era Twin who played for the Giants. Top right, Target Field era Twin who recorded at least 1 save for the Twins. Bottom left, Twin and Giant who were involved in a Twins trade, so had to play for both the Giants and the Twins, and were either traded for or away from the Twins. That does not necessarily need to be to or from the Giants, just needs to be involved in a trade and also have played for the Giants. And then the last one is a Twin who was involved in a trade who also recorded at least 1 save. We are going to do a snake draft. So each of us can choose a person who fits each category. That person cannot be reused. And we're going to fill up a board. I trust that you guys will be taking or paying attention to your own picks, report it, and I will post them tomorrow so that people can vote on who constructed the best grid. Any questions from our guests or hosts?
What is the best just up to interpretation?
Yeah. It'd be like the most obscure, probably.
So we're going rarity score.
Kinda. But also like if there's like any humor in it. Yeah.
It's all up to interpretation. Yeah. What's your favorite? Some people just want to see players like let's choose somebody. Joe Mauer find themselves. Sometimes people want a whole grid of Justin Morneau and Joe Mauer. Some people would prefer to see Jaime Garcia make an appearance. So can never know what these rascal voters are going to vote for. So I have a number in my head between 1 and 10. Both of you, please give me a number.
10.
2.
It was 2. So Cody, would you like to go first, second, or third?
First time he's won anything ever. Congratulations, Cody.
I'll go first.
Okay, and Tom, would you like to go second or third? This is a snake draft.
I'll go third.
Okay, so it'll go Cody, Greg, Tom, Greg, Cody. All right. So, Cody, who's your first pick?
Does it have to be the target field? Does it have to be the? Sorry.
No, you can choose any of them.
Okay, great. Okay, so I will go for a target field era twin who played for the Giants and the Twins, and I will go with Sean Anderson.
Sean Anderson for a target field darling. So the top left, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. I'm guessing we'll not to give away who he was traded for because that might come up later.
Twins fans love the trade.
What a heck of a trade. Okay, so for me, I think I'm going to go the top right, target field era twin who recorded at least one save. I'm going to go with Randy Dobnak. Has 2 saves as a twin. I looked it up earlier today.
I did not know that.
Perfect. Yeah, there was 1 in 19 and 1 in 21. So, Tom, what do you got?
All right.
You've got 2 of them to check off.
I'm going to do the twin involved in a Twins trade who recorded at least 1 save.
Okay.
And for that, I'm going to go with Justin Haley. Justin
Haley.
I believe that might be the first trade that Derek Falvey ever made.
Is that the Danny Santana trade?
This was in December of 2016. It was like involving the Rule 5 draft, I think.
Oh, right.
And then he threw like 10 games for the Twins. It was terrible, but he did record exactly one save. Justin Haley.
I bet you this is a treat for all of the listeners who've stuck around to the hour 32 mark. You did not expect Justin Haley to be mentioned in this podcast.
No,
here he is.
Nobody. I'm going to go with more of definitely more of a known guy for my target field darling who also played for the Giants. Because I forget that this guy just wasn't a Minnesota Twin for his entire existence, because that's all he is to me is A-Ray Adrianza, one of my all-time favorites who started his career, I think, with the Giants.
Yeah, he was definitely on my list for that spot. All right. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to stay in that category, that top left target field darling who was a Giant. I'm going to go with Sergio Romo. Just constant presence for about 6 months over 2 years. But he left quite an impact or a mark on the story that you can tell about the 2019-2020 team. So I'm going to go top left, Sergio Romo, a target field darling who also played for the Giants. Cody, what do we got?
I think you're going to hate my approach, Greg, but down in the bottom right with Twin involved in the Twins trade, he recorded at least 1 save. I'm going to go with Jorge Lopez.
All right, so we've got Jorge Lopez, we've got Sean Anderson, buddy. Oh dear, I'm trying to think of other less than awesome returns that the Twins have gotten. But okay, and then second one, or your third pick.
Okay. Okay. Let's go with target field era twin who recorded at least 1 save. And I will go with fan favorite Matt Capps.
Nice.
Proven closer, Matt Caps.
Mm-hmm.
I was very close to choosing him over Dobnak just because of the proven closer moniker.
Yeah.
I like that pick. All right, a bottom left. I'm going to go. You know what? Let's just break the ice. I'm going to go with Lamont Wade, a nice trade, as nice trade Falvey as you're going to get. Was the return for the Giants for Sean Anderson. We all know the story. The Twins chose Jake Cave over Lamont Wade. Lamont Wade has become a cult hero in San Francisco, and he has been pretty good over there. I'm going to go with Lamont Wade there. Great trade, Falvey. Okay, Tom, your last two picks.
All right. So my nice trade Falvey and Giants pick. I'm going to go with Eduardo Nunez.
That's a good one.
I had to sneak one of the Eds in there. And then, to be honest, I don't remember which category I took Justin Haley in because he fits in both. So I'm just going to take another guy that fits in both of them. And you can put him wherever you want. But Kevin Jepson was a proven closer of the Target Field era who also was a trade guy.
He was on my short list there too.
Nice. I had to reach back for this one. Excellent second half of 2015 after coming over from Tampa Bay for the Twins was Kevin Jepson.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, so I've got one more left. I have bottom right is open for me. And so I'm going to go with, and I had to double check to make sure that he was involved in a trade, and he did have at least one save. Everyday Eddie Guardado, when he came, and to make it even funnier, so he came back. When he left the Twins initially, it was in free agency, but the Twins did trade for him in 2008, and that was his last hurrah. That was his swan song. But so he does count as a Twin involved in a trade who is recorded at least one save. Can anybody tell me who Everyday Eddie was traded for? Who the Twins sent for him?
I didn't even remember that they traded back for him. No.
So the Twins traded Mark Hamburger to get Everyday Eddie back.
That name. That's a made-up name, clearly. John Fish Sticks they traded for him. Yeah.
I mean, he's no sloppy Thurston, but
That's funny because I have Trevor Hildenberger written down as one of my other guys that I wanted to call out. But shoot, we weren't done picking yet.
Yeah, Cody. No, Cody, you went first, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So Twin and Giant involved in a trade. I will go with Trevor. No, I'm just kidding. I will go with another fan favorite. You will be shocked to hear this name. AJ Pierzynski.
Yep. AJ got run out of town in San Francisco, but I thought about including Boof Bonser because he was never a Giant, right?
Oh.
Neither was Liriano. He wasn't actually a Giant. I would have accepted a Boof Bonser or a Francisco Liriano in that category from you guys, but since I'm the one who came up with the categories, I didn't want to make it unfair and throw in somebody who was a borderline case. But I would have accepted Boof Bonser in that spot.
I was contemplating Jalen Davis too, but I don't think enough people know who that is.
Yeah, that was the Sam Dyson trade. Yep.
People were angry about that.
Yeah. Wow. That would have been a good deep cut, but I think that probably would have gone the way of your picks to click deep cuts. So. Yeah. All right. So old Greg has chosen Sergio Romo, Randy Dobnak, Lamont Wade, and Everyday Eddie Guardado. Tom has. This is my cue for you to read off your names.
Oh. I thought you were doing that.
To keep track.
Justin Haley, Kevin Jepson, Eduardo Nunez, and A-Ray Adrianza. I've got the bullpen and the infield just shore up on my squad.
Well, and Adrianza also can pitch, so
that's true.
And Cody?
Sean Anderson, Jorge Lopez, Matt Capps, and AJ Brzezinski.
Perfect. All right, so look out, all you listeners, for that to be posted on the Twins Off Daily Twitter account, and you will be able to vote on who you think put together the most beautiful, smartest, most niche Immaculate Gregg. I think Melissa won the last time we did this. Anyway, we have gone on long enough. Do we have time for a walk-off question? Who would we choose in a Twins Daily writer draft? Yes. Cody, give me your answer.
I just want to say really quick, I love that this episode was directed by Martin Scorsese. I really appreciate him coming in to direct his new feature-length film. I really appreciate it.
This is what happens when Lou isn't around. He can't stop us.
We're gonna Lou. By the way, we went for 2 hours.
Oh no.
Okay. Sorry. So the writer, I'm gonna go with Theo Tollefson. He's very well-rounded. He produces the Destination the Show podcast. He covers the Saints on a pretty full-time basis. He writes. He also writes with me at Zone Coverage too. So I'll go with Theo. I think he does a great job with everything he does.
Tom,
what do we got? First pick in the Twins Daily.
Oh my gosh, this is very difficult. I mean, there's no wrong answer. I feel like there's a lot of good choices there. I'm gonna go with Nick Nelson though. I think Nick Nelson, like in terms of like being creative and being a writer, there's more. I don't think we are always in the same lane per se, and maybe that's what I appreciate about him. He does a lot of different stuff. He does do a great job at his week in review. Like that's kind of what I'm into too, is like, let's condense things down and make things easy for people and not record 1 hour and 40-minute podcasts. And but no, he had a book that he put out with a buddy of his about video games. It was really cool, called Versus. I think he just got put out a Mauer ebook. So he's always working on side projects and interesting stuff like that. So I'll go with Nick. But I mean, any of the owners of the site in particular, definitely easy picks. Theo as well, doing all that reporting for the Saints this year has been super impressive. I don't think anybody's really used Twins Daily as a platform, as a traditional like media reporter as well as he has. He's been super impressive.
And also 2 out of 3 Codys. We're not going to name which one you don't like, but
I had a Mark on the list.
That's good. Mark Hamburger.
Yeah, and Mark Hamburger, dadgummit. So I'm gonna say it's definitely not Jamie.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that. And it's also definitely not Lou, because, well, we're gonna see if he actually listened to the end. Lou, we're lost without you, man. Anyway, let's move on to just really quickly. Looking ahead, we've got 3 games in San Francisco, and then it's going to be the All-Star break. If you stuck around to the end of the episode, you will know. You might be asking yourself, hey, wait a minute, you guys make a podcast every time there's a Twins off day. There's 5 off days in a row. What are you going to do? We're going to put out 5 off daily podcasts. We're going to do year in review. We're going to be looking ahead to the trade deadline. We're going to be reviewing the draft. There's going to be a whole lot of nonsense. But look forward to having at least one show every day for the 5 days between the Twins' final game in San Francisco and their first game. Are they going to Milwaukee? Is that how they? Cool.
They're home. They're home against Milwaukee.
Home against Milwaukee. Perfect. So we will catch you guys all on Monday after this. Does anybody have anything they'd like to plug before we hang up this call? All righty. Signing off for the Twins Off Daily podcast. This has been Greg. It's been awesome to have Tom along for the ride, and Cody, as always. Lou says stay sweet. I'll say stay old.